To begin, we will revisit the DTM, focusing mainly on stage 2 because stage 2 is where Sierra Leone falls into, and that is the transitional stage. Sierra Leone is a part of this category because its birth rate exceeds its death rate. The high birth rate communicates that the amount of births outnumber the amount of deaths in that country. The total number of deaths are reduced mainly because of an improvement in healthcare, specifically in the pediatric department, because it targets the life expectancy of those who are really at risk, and those people are the children. What is the IPAT model? The IPAT model is used to estimate the impact that human habits have on the earth. It is measured by the population of a country, the affluence of a country, and the amount of technology that country is exposed to. The more population grows, the more pollution that occurs, as well as the more resources that are going to be used. This relates to the tragedy of commons because these common resources, such as I guess a famous example is like a fish in the ocean, like fish in the ocean. A lot of people want fish because in this scenario that's all that's available. So it's going to be a lot of competition. It's free, but it's a lot of competition. And because it's a fixed number of fish, eventually it's going to become the area is going to become overcapacitated, and that's not safe. And what scientists are saying is that eventually that's what's going to happen on the earth, that we're going to deplete all of our resources, and there's going to be nothing but chaos, and everyone's going to die because no one's not going to have anything to eat or anything like that. Affluence. Countries like China and India are becoming more and more developed, so they have more an impact on affluence, which increases the consumption rate. Technology increases if we have less efficient technology. So that'll be related to the argument about oil and fracking, natural gases, bio-oils, etc. To revisit population and how population eventually pollutes and depletes resources, I want to introduce this graph. It's called the negative externality graph, and it's really important, and it relates strongly to this issue because it basically demonstrates how everyone's decision impacts everyone as a whole. Over here is basically where we're at. It's realistic, and they don't want it to be this high. Notice that it outnumbers what's socially optimal. Socially optimal is where the government, the world would like to be, but they cannot get there because they don't know the steps to take, or the steps are too challenging or too expensive, etc., etc. So, yeah. The United States birth rate is currently at 1.38, and they're in stage 4. In comparison to the 4.7 birth rate in Sierra Leone, who is in stage 2. I make this juxtaposition because going back to the idea that eventually we're going to become overcapacitated, we need to monitor how many people are having babies and try to protect our home for as long as we can. And right now that's not what's happening. An example that I read about with the United States and why they're so, I guess, the poster for the birth rates, because they basically, they're having less babies, and they're having less babies because more people are going to school, more people are working, and they don't need to have kids, like, to join the labor force. And this brings us to the positive externality graph. The positive externality graph focuses on things like education, medicine, scientific discoveries, etc., etc. Right now, this is where we are, and this is where we would like to be. So that's just like a visual of the circumstances that the entire world is facing. Sierra Leone, like all other less developed countries, are responsible for the increase in population. And it's sad to say this because it's not actually the civilians' fault, it's the government's fault. Like, it's not even a scientific issue anymore, it becomes a political issue because the government isn't doing anything to support their people or help make the world a better place. They're not making healthcare available to everyone because of their social status. They're not getting contraceptives to women. They're not educating these people about the world that they live in and how much danger we're going to be in. So now what I think if more private funds were to donate to the benefit of the world, then maybe all of these issues would not exist. And I say this because, to be honest, some people have more money than they need. And it's like, why have it sit in a bank account and continue to accumulate and you're not doing anything with it? I understand that, especially in the United States, we live in a capitalist world, but it's not fair. Like, it's not even about who has more money or the luxurious things anymore. It's about survival and preserving the earth for not just us, but future generations, and making sure that it's here for a while. One might argue against my point, saying that giving to the less fortunate is going to make the person who's giving the money, in a bad situation. But once again, I disagree with that because in order to have sustainability, someone needs to sacrifice something. Like, it's not going to change on its own. My solution to this issue is to educate the people, innovate technology, and help underdeveloped countries. And that's it.